So as a review, you guys come up with your ideas. I've already talked about this. What do you want it to contain? Okay, figure out what you want to do so you have an overall idea. I'm doing a flower pot. Okay. What's the first thing we need to do?
Wedge.
Wedge the clay. Why?
Because if we don't wedge it, it'll be air bubbles, and if there's air bubbles, it'll explode in the kiln.
Yeah, we don't want air bubbles, and so we get all the air bubbles out.
That might destroy other people's clay creations right next
Yep.
to yours.
And you would also need to start over as well. Okay, so this is how I learned to wedge. It's a good standing up process, okay, because you can put your whole body weight into it. And how I learned how to do it, like how you know you're doing it the right way, is it looks like an alien. Okay, because this is where the heel of your hands go, and you're rolling it up, pressing in and down. Okay, and since this is clay that I've already used, I need to keep adding a little bit more water so that it stays at the workable stage.
Want that hard leather, hard bone.
Workable is the first one, then it dries out to leather hard, then it dries out to bone dry, okay, which is all of this clay, okay, no moisture left, it's bone dry. It could go into the kiln. It can also be broken up and recycled back into clay, okay, but I'm going to recycle it, okay, put water with it.
Oh, how much?
Then when it comes out of the kiln, it comes out as something different.
Ceramic.
Yes, comes out as ceramic. It is something completely different. It's much harder. Okay, it cannot be recycled back into clay. Okay, it is like the heat had a reaction with it. The clay molecules changed, and they are now ceramic molecules. Okay, so a little bit of science. Okay, so this is an example of what we are going to be kind of doing. Coil construction. You're constructing something three-dimensionally using these little coils. Okay. So, wedging takes about 5 minutes, right? Like I told you last year? Yeah. Okay. So, pretend this was 5 minutes. Okay? For demonstration purposes, we'll keep going.
That was fast fun.
I know.
Quick. Just.
Time flies when you're having fun, right?
And a little video edit.
Okay? So, guys. So I pat it into a ball to get rid of these creases because when you roll it out a little bit, those could turn into cracks very easily. You don't need the paint sticks like you did last year because you don't need to get it super thin. I'm just rolling it out a little bit. And yeah, those cracks are fine. Those little ones. Okay. So, I know the rule is always thinner than your thumb. This is about the thickness of your thumb right now. I'm going to cut off part of it. Okay? You guys all know my rule with knives, right? No fooling around. Zero. Okay? Because if I'm fooling around and I'm just playing, okay, and somebody else is fooling around over here and they bump me, and I fall into somebody, that is where the accidents could happen. So each table will have one knife. Okay? You'll have to share. I'm bringing back knives this year. We're going to try it again. Okay? Because I did have to take them away last year. Do you guys remember?
Yep.
Okay? I don't want to have to bust out angry Mrs. Paisley like I did last year. Okay? So, thumbs up if you guys understand about knife safety. Brendan, thank you. Okay, thank you. So, I'm going to cut off some of it. I'm going to use this part as my base. I'm going to roll it out a little bit thinner. And so this is where, like, if you're doing a circle, you could use a mug, and you could trace around it.
Can you just press down on the mug into it?
Yep. You can also build your base using the coils, okay? Or you can start with a flat piece.
Isn't this made out of clay?
Yes.
Oh, that was really good.
It's also made out of a mold. Yeah. Somebody didn't hand make it. Okay, so I kind of make sure everything's all tidied in there. Okay, so I have a base.
That's surprising.
Next step is to make some of your coils. However thick it is, that's how wide I make the cut. Okay, so, and it's an estimate, it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, and this part I'm not going to use. I put these to the side. And this is where I start. I round off the edges, okay, on the top and the bottom. Move all this stuff away because I need some room, okay? And I start off lightly at first. I'm not pressing down very hard. I'm just trying to get the whole thing round. And as it starts to get a little rounder, I start pressing down a little bit harder. And you can hear that it's flat on one side, so I might try to squish it a little to try to bring in those sides a little bit. And notice I'm using my whole hand. I'm not just using my fingers, okay? I'm using my whole hand to do it. A good rule of thumb is no thicker than your thumb, but no thinner than a pencil, okay? So this part's getting a little thin, so I'm not going to press down a whole lot right there. And I just keep moving a little bit. Okay. So you've got this nice long coil. This is actually a particularly long coil. Some of them you end up only needing a little bit. And if I see correctly in my drawing, I want a little coils, but I think I'm just going to start building using the coils first. But I do see that the shape of mine goes out first. So I'm going to start here and I'm going to start building out a little bit. And I'm going to taper off this edge. And I see a few cracks in my clay, so I'm going to put a little bit of water on it. Okay, so taper off this edge, taper off this edge. That's going to allow for a better transition. And so when you're adding clay, I'm putting this clay onto this clay. What do I need to, whenever you add clay together, what do you need to do?
Slip and score.
Slip and score. So we do that with our toothbrush. Not your personal toothbrush, but the clay toothbrushes.
Because if you use that toothbrush, you'll probably be tasting clay in the morning.
Or right now. That would just not be sanitary. And other people use these toothbrushes. We only use it for clay. So I only slip and score on the bottom portion. I don't slip and score the coil. So the first one, you kind of gently press down. Okay, and because we tapered this, okay, it allows us to move up onto here, but I'm adding on another row, so I need to slip and score this one. And I'm also starting to build out. Okay, so if you build out, you put it out here. If you're starting to taper in, you put it so it's going in a little bit. Okay, see how that would work? But right now I'm starting to build out because it's a flower pot. Okay, so I need to slip and score a little bit more. Alright, so that's my first coil. At this point, okay, there's three rows of coils on here. This is the point where I would start smoothing it out, okay, because it's still workable. And we can't smooth it out when it gets to the leather hard stage. So I want to smooth the inside rather than the outside because I want my coils to show. So this part, I take this and I take some of the coils and I scrape it down onto the base. Okay. Did you guys see that? And that makes sure that they're all really secure together. Because otherwise, and it's happened many times where they put it in the kiln and things shrink up and the whole base comes off of the coils. Like the coils come off, okay? So you have to smooth out either the inside or the outside. I've already talked about that last time, but so. And then I also, lots of times I provide support, especially when it gets bigger. Put your hand on the outside so that you can, so it doesn't stretch it out. Because if I just keep going like this, it's going to keep stretching this out. So if I put my hand here while I'm smoothing, it's not going to stretch it. Mm-hmm. No thanks, but thank you for offering. All right. Okay, also your hands work really well for smoothing. All right, so there's that portion. And so I think I'm going to say this is the end of the video portion. Okay, so that's like the basic technique. I'm going to show you guys a few more things because all classes are going to get this portion, but then if anybody needs to be reminded of things, they can go back to the video for the basics. Okay?